Hello, 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 hello. This is Marshall Goldsmith, and I'm really looking forward to working with you today on LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live, I love these shows, and today we have a couple of wonderful guests. Before I introduce the guests today, let me briefly introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm from Kentucky. I went to school in Indiana. I got a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was very, very young. And then for 43 years, I've done three things. I give talks or teach classes. I've traveled all around the world speaking and teaching, been to 102 countries. I also coach executives. I've been the coach of many famous people, Ford and Pfizer and Glaxo and the World Bank and Mayo Clinic and the New York Public Library and on and on and on. And I love coaching because my clients teach me so much. I'm supposed to teach them, but I learn more than I teach. And then I write books and articles. So I've written or edited 41 books, and I've done 3 big New York Times bestsellers. So I sold 3 million books. So that's what I do. And then I went to a program called Design the Life You Love. And the woman said, I shape or sell, a wonderful person. Who are your heroes? My heroes were very kind and generous people who were great teachers. And she said, you should be more like them. I thought, what a nice idea. I decided to adopt 15 people, teach them all, and know for free. And the only price is when they get old, they have to do the same thing. I made a video, put it on LinkedIn. Turned out over 18,000 people applied for adoption. And now I've adopted a couple hundred people, and this program is called 100 Coaches. And these are amazing, amazing people from all walks of life, and very honored to know all of them. And 2 of them are here today. Lou Carter and Dr. Julie Rosenberg, wonderful, wonderful people. And, we're being shows today put on by Methods, who do a fantastic job of organizing these shows. And then our partner in all crime is Thinkers 50, a wonderful organization. Thinkers 50, I'm a member of the Hall of Fame. That's where they put old people that, so that's a good thing. Now, we got 2 wonderful guests today. We got my good friend, Lou Carter. Lou is a great friend of mine. I've known him for years. He's an organizational psychologist. He's the CEO of Best Practices Institute. He's working on the concept of the Corporate Resilience Project with some other people in our fine 100 Coach organization. And he and Dr. Julie are working on a program called I love the name, Dr. Julie and You, bringing the you into the new. I just love this title. I love that title. And also, his comrade is Dr. Julie Rosenberg. Now, I love Dr. Julie. She is one of our 100 coaches. She's been our medical advisor. She's a senior medical consultant. She's an expert on health and wellness. She's written a couple of great books, Beyond the Mat and Be True. And it's just been a blessing to all of us in the 100 Coaches community. She's really helped us through this whole thing. So Dr. Julie and Lou, really excited to talk to you today. We're going to cover as much as we can in a short period of time. And today's topic is dealing with uncertainty. Now, Dr. Julie is going to talk about this at the individual level, and Lou is going to be talking to this more at the corporate and business level. So that's our first question. How should we deal with this prolonged, sustained uncertainty? And Carol Kaufman, who's one of our 100 coaches, had a good phrase lately. I didn't know this was a trauma coach. And she said, we're really making that transition from acute to chronic trauma, acute to chronic. So Dr. Julie, how should we deal with this prolonged and sustained uncertainty?
Well, thanks so much for having me here today, Marshall. And this is one of my favorite topics because it's a personal topic, and obviously it's an important business topic. And uncertainty is not just something we'll wrestle with during the COVID-19 pandemic. There's so many things in our lives that are uncertain. And I think that there are relatively simple things that we can do to keep ourselves grounded and keep ourselves stable, and I should say sane, in the face of adversity. One of them, is to look at the constants, figure out what's constant in your life, your home, your family, your job right now may or may not be constant, but look for the constants and embrace them. Another thing that we can do is ensure that we are grounded in the face of this adversity. And a couple ways to be grounded are through breath work, deep breathing. It incites the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us to calm down. Within the realm of uncertainty, oftentimes we're on sympathetic overdrive. It's fight or flight. But once we start breathing, deep breathing, we'll find our thinking slows down and our body seems to relax. And if we do that with our feet on the ground, we can really feel the support of the earth underneath us. And I also embrace meditation practices as well as breathing. And finally, I think that food is medicine. And so my last comment just on this topic in brief is that if you eat a whole and nutritious diet and eat with some regularity, it will stabilize your blood sugar and help you avoid so many of the ups and downs that we might experience during our day. And all these things that I've mentioned, they're free and they're available to all of us. And that's one reason why I like them so much.
Excellent. How about Lou? Share your perspective on the business side of this question.
Thanks, Marshall. I don't see business as really any different than individual in this perspective, because I look at the individual in the SARA model, which is sadness, anger, resistance, and then eventually acceptance. And CEOs, executives, managers are going through this very process. And Julie, I wanted to let you know, I really did just take off my shoes and put my feet on the floor, because I believe that's also true. And what we need from businesses right now, which is moving to that acceptance level quicker, because now more than ever, we have to get to task orientation and goals. So a lot of things we need to do inside of companies, and what you need to do, what CEOs need to do, I need to do, all of us, is accept our reality. We make small adjustments. These don't need to be enormous pivots, becoming somebody that you're really not. They're really something that enables you to pivot very slightly your business strategy while still keeping your business goals and tasks in mind. A lot of the CEOs and people I've talked with and been working with have one very important thing that they're doing. They're staying on task and on goal amidst this incredible crisis. The most important part of vision and keeping to your vision is keeping your tasks. They change, they adapt. Like our friend Tom Kolditz talks about, there's no such thing as vision. He was a brigadier general in the US Army. He said, vision is great, however, it changes constantly. Well, what we're finding now is that CEOs are adjusting just slightly and staying on that task goal orientation as they move to acceptance. My advice to everybody now inside of businesses is to still get back to your tasks and goals as you accept and adjust slightly, because right now it's essential that we remain balanced, structured, and really moving toward that future vision that you always had for your company.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks to both of you. Dr. Julie, what's the best thing you can do right now to take care of yourself?
Well, first and foremost, Marshall, I think that we, in addition to being in the midst of a pandemic, we're a bit in the midst of what I call an infodemic. There is so much information out there in all forms of media that while I think it's important to be informed, it's also important not to be overwhelmed by this amount of information. And so if you can be informed, maybe checking in once a day to what's going on, twice a day at most, but then structure your life around other things, whether you're at home now or whether you're potentially preparing for some re-entry into the community or into an office, as some states are doing here in the US. It's really important to shield yourself from this massive overwhelm. The other thing I think we can do, because we are in the midst, of course, of a pandemic, is try to strengthen our health and well-being as much as possible in the here and now. I mentioned about ensuring a nutritious diet. In addition to this, having some structure in your life is really important. Structuring your day so that you don't get remiss about the obligations, and as Lou is talking about, the tasks that you might need to do. We are task-oriented human beings, and it's nice to be able to accomplish some things during this challenging time, you know, when many of us are at home and wrestling with the uncertainties. The other things that are important are just overall taking care of yourself. Find a way to exercise. It's very important to be able to move your body. It supports your health and well-being. As I was talking about breath work, yoga, meditation will help to calm your nervous system. And also don't forget about sleep. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and good restful sleep is very important to renew and rejuvenate. And the last thing I want to mention is, like we're doing here with all of you today, stay connected in one way or another. It's really important not to be isolated. And so even though we might only have Zoom, or we might have the phone, or even a text message right now, stay connected to people you love and people you work with and people you're friends with, just to ensure that you know you're part of a community, because it's as a community together that we will heal these problems and move forward, all of us individually and collectively.
Marshall, I think you're on mute.
You didn't hear me. Wait. Connect yourself. Connect yourself. Now, Lou, what can you do to help your company and your team take care of themselves?
Yeah, it's a perfect lead-in about connect yourself, because with connect yourself we have a concept called emotional connection. In the new book I wrote called In Great Company, we spent 3 years looking at this concept of emotional connection, how important it is for your team to come together.
Wait 1 second, I forgot something. I am always supposed to ask everybody the right questions in the chat box, which of course I immediately forgot about in the introduction, which I do about half the time. So everybody write good questions for Lou and Dr. Julie in the chat box. Now, Lou, accept my apologies. Start rolling again from the beginning.
It's all good. That's what emotional connectedness is all about. You got to feel free to innovate and say what you need to say. That's about one of the most important things is psychological safety. You hear it all the time. And most important part of emotional connection really is that psychological safety, that you can say and innovate and be that person that you truly are. Even in a virtual environment, remote environment, on site, you have to be who you are. And that comes with all of the nervousness or anxiety or calm that you are, because this is the time to really rebrand ourselves, isn't it? This is really a time to show that we are calling to this very huge challenge that we have in society and social system. So emotional connectedness, what is it? Why is it important right now? Why do we need it more than ever? We have social disconnection, we have physical distancing, so we need more emotional social connectedness. Now, we do it in Zoom meetings, it's very disconnected sometimes. There's various types of facial expressions, the way that we move our hands, body language. So it's very hard to make that connection sometimes. So we have to really listen, deeply listen, connect in that way. Now, the other thing also with emotional connectedness is around the vision and how we implement. This is interesting. Dr. Julie talked before about how we need to be regimented and task-oriented. Very important. There's a great psychologist back in the 40s named Bluma Zeignert. And what Bluma talked about was you actually feel better, and if you complete your tasks, you feel worse if you don't. So here's the thing. When you do your tasks, you have a regimented day. You drink your juice, you eat your bar in the morning, and you have specific things you do during the day, and you get those tasks off your list. You actually are going to reduce the amount of cortisol stress inside of your body, as Dr. Julie would say, and increase endorphins. You'll feel a lot better. This is the most important part of emotional connectedness, is getting it done, executing, creating outcomes with people. As we move back into the workforce, whether it be doing great in your remote workforce or doing great on site, we have to say to ourselves, how are we going to co-create and feel safe saying, I can do this best either remote or I can do this best on site? It has to be co-created collaboratively with your organization and with your HR, with your bosses, and eventually with your CEO. Together, we can create a new future. There is a very distinct possibility that the way that we work will change in the coming years. Let's see what happens by allowing us to co-create it, which is a big part of emotional connection.
Marshall, looks like you're on mute again.
You know, Dr. Julie, one of these days I'm going to learn to push those little buttons. But back to this mindset. Why is mindset so important today?
Right. Well, one of the things that I really invite people to do, my clients and patients, is think about how they're viewing a situation. I mean, no one would say that this is not a very difficult time in our history and in all of our lives, individually and collectively. But what if we looked at this time at home as an opportunity? And let me just give an example of something that I did. I have been working on a website update for the past 6 months. I actually put it aside because it wasn't something that was pressing for me. I put it aside, and finally, with this time when I'm not traveling so much, I launched my website last Friday. So I was excited about that. I actually accomplished a task. On the flip side, there's been a number of books that I've wanted to read. I put several of them out on my desk. I'm hoping to get through them. One of them is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I have wanted to reread that book in this challenging time, but I haven't gotten to it. And so instead of slapping my hands and saying, oh my God, you're so bad, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, I focus on what I can do. So let's together, regardless of your situation, focus on what the next opportunity might be. Can you create an opportunity in this time? As I was saying, I did by finishing my website. Can you create a certain opportunity, something that you'll be proud of? Can you connect more to people that maybe you haven't seen in a while? Can you envision, say you've lost a job, can you visualize that next job? Can you visualize a return to prosperity? Can you visualize opportunity in your future? So how you frame things, your mindset in the here and now, will carry on to where we're going next, wherever that may be. And it's really important in driving our individual and collective success.
Lou, reentry. Everybody in their own way. Everybody in their own way is going to be re-entering. What are some of your tips for re-entry?
So for re-entry, I'd love to know from people, even in the chat, if you could put it in the comment bar, are you a remote worker, a virtual worker, or are you somebody who works on site? And to that question, are you somebody who prefers to work on site or somebody who prefers to work remotely? Because what we're looking at is, if you prefer to work remotely, chances are you're going to perform better if you have a preference, right? If you prefer to work on site, well, there's a possibility you perform better or more if you work on site. So this is really the question of reentry. The question is, how do you want to reenter? What do you want to happen when you reenter? I think of this a lot like how we had a project with veterans, and how do we bring veterans back into the workforce so that they feel welcome. It's not too dissimilar. We have been in somewhat of a war situation here, where we've been told to go sit on our couches. Our grandparents were asked to go to war, but we were asked to sit on our couches in this time, and it has had significant psychological effect. I think that's reasonable to assume. Therefore, as we re-enter into the workforce, it's reasonable to assume as well that we should have a chance to say how we work best. Re-entry is best co-created. It's best to say how you can re-enter the workforce, so how you want to work in the new workforce, and how you'll perform even better. Bottom line, create it yourself and work with the people that and tell the people what your best ways of reentering are and how you expect it to happen. It'll take away a lot of the stress, and as Dr. Julie says, get a lot more grounded in your results.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks to both of you. This is wonderful. And Justin, my wonderful friend Justin from Methods, who really is producing great technology that we can all use during these crazy times. Justin, do we have any good questions or remarks for Julie or Lou?
There's comments and questions floating in. In fact, just Lou, to respond to your question that you posed to the audience here, I'm seeing a number of people chiming in on working remotely from home. And right now, I'm kind of 50-50. I see Barbara Silva says, I'm performing better now while working remotely. And on the other side of we've got Mary here, virtual and prefer more virtual with some on-site. We have somebody, Carol York says, I'm normally on-site. I have been working remotely for 4 weeks. I did see a few in here that said, I can't wait to get back to work. So there are a number of people saying, I can't wait to get back. And some people saying they're finding themselves being more efficient from home.
Right.
From a question perspective, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
My wife's response was slightly different. She said she can't wait for me to get back to work. Okay, what's a good question?
So while we are sitting at home and we're overloaded with information, as you mentioned, Dr. Julie, we have Lorenzo Spivey from Columbus, Ohio, who wrote into us and said, there's a lot of information floating around. And how do you know what information that you can actually trust right now?
Well, if that's for me, Lorenzo, thanks for your question. There is a reality that it is difficult to wield through all of the information, and it is hard to know what to trust and what not to trust. I would just suggest that guidelines, for example, from the CDC, are things you can trust from known websites or known experts. Some of the editorialization in the media are indeed people's opinions. And I usually like to couch any of my opinions with facts if they do or if they don't align with the experts. So I would suggest that we try to get our information from credible sources that we know as credible and try to distill down anything that might be noise. Just attempt to be informed. Most states in the US actually have websites. They offer statistics. They offer a plan for reentry, which is happening now. And in general, I think we can follow these pieces of information, but be careful not to read too much into it and not to be caught with editorialization. The other thing that I want to mention about the information is that it's probably going to continue to come. So we just really need to stay focused and stay grounded within ourselves. Use your gut, use your intuition. If something seems really off course, maybe not heed that type of advice, but stay grounded, and it will help you to be able to filter through good information from noise.
Very good. Okay, Justin, what's another good question?
All right, Marshall, and thanks for that answer. I'm going to work on this pronunciation here. It's Ferdaus, I believe it is, from Casablanca, is writing in, and she says, do you see the quarantine period as a smart occasion to rethink your career, or do you think it would create some sort of biases due to the uncertainty?
Lou, how about you on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, really, when she says biases because of the uncertainty, tell us more about the biases. Are you saying conscious biases, unconscious biases, things that, so when I heard you say that.
Give it a shot, just give it a shot.
I'm gonna shoot out here. Here we go. Ready? You miss 100% of shots you don't take. So here's what I'm thinking. Yes, it's a wonderful opportunity, Casablanca. It's an incredible opportunity to rebrand ourselves, to come to the call of action, to really be that person that you want to be in the world. Meaning, this is the time. If you step up and you live that kind of not just empathetic, emotionally regulated leader, but also creating things in the world that can help other people. This is your time. This is also the time, as Dr. Julie said, and as others are saying, is to be your own best educator. So if there is news happening that doesn't quite seem right, or being told something, or questioning or experiments on things, just know to do or not do them, because you're using your own sanity. So if that's what you mean by bias, I understand. Here's the thing. This is the time. You have set a portion of your day that you can, if left alone, rebrand, recreate, find the new in you, and wonderful things can happen. So that, Casablanca, what a great place to ask the question. Amazing. Thank you for the question. Dr. Julie or Marshall, back to you on this question.
Okay, final, we're almost at the end here. Final comment from Julie, final comment from Lou. Lou, you, and then we'll wrap up with Julie.
Got it.
Final.
All right. Final comment. Great time to discover how you're going to re-enter into the workforce. There's no better time than now to find out the ways that you can produce better and more inside of your company. You can become more connected to people, because this is how and when you have that time. This is your free time. Okay. So my big thing is emotionally connect. Find out how you connect emotionally, even though you're physically distant, and begin that process of task orientation, because we can't afford to get off task. So if you're in a position right now where you don't have that job, you're furloughed or laid off, and this is happening to so many of us, think of this as a time to really rebrand, recreate, think of the new, give this time to yourself, reach out to as many people as possible. And as Marshall always said, brand yourself. Find your strengths. Find out what other people want. Define your value for others in the best possible way. When we help others, we give to others, great things will come back.
How about Dr. Julie? Final comment.
Yeah, I think in this time, just dovetailing on what Lou said about the corporate transition, take the opportunity to get to know yourself. And that may sound counterintuitive. Of course, we'll say we know ourselves, but I might suggest that so many people are living lives that may not be fully authentic, may not be the life that they want. And that's why I wrote a book, Be True. And Be True is actually a self-study guide to help you to live your most authentic life, to understand what's important to you on your journey. But you do have time now to do that. And I think it's that time that's actually critical, that will allow you to take those next steps, whatever they may be. Spend some time in self-reflection, self-awareness, get to know yourself, be true to yourself, and that next phase will be all the more meaningful, valuable, and I hope filled with opportunity.
And finally, it's my honor to work with Lou, with Dr. Julie. You guys are fantastic. Hopefully you can come back again. You've got your own show coming up, and maybe you'll invite me as a guest on your wonderful show. So it's been my privilege and honor to be with both of you. Thanks for helping everybody else out there. And finally, to our wonderful audience, thanks to the people in Methods, Thinkers 50, 100 Coaches. Thanks to everybody for listening in. I'm amazed how many people listen in and make so many nice comments. So that's important to me. We're just trying to help you have a little better life here. And if any of this stuff is useful for any of you, use it in any way you can use it and share it with your friends. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.